For over half a century, physics has been on this epic quest, right? Looking for a single, beautiful equation that could explain, well, everything. A theory of everything. And for most of that time, the undisputed rock star, the main character of this story, has been string theory. But you know what? After 50 years of some of the most brilliant minds on the planet working on it, there's a growing feeling that something is deeply, deeply wrong. And this is the question that's really haunting the field. How can the leading candidate for the theory of everything produce literally zero testable evidence in 50 years? Not a single prediction that we can go out and actually check. Not one. It's a theory in crisis. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into exactly why it's failing, and then we're going to look at a radical new idea that suggests we might have been looking at the universe in completely the wrong way all along. Okay, so where did it all go off the rails? Look, the problems we're about to talk about aren't just little wrinkles that can be ironed out. No, they go right to the very heart of the theory itself. So let's lay out the case against strings. We can pretty much boil down the biggest issues into three critical failures. First, the theory absolutely demands extra dimensions of space that we just can't find anywhere. Second, it predicts a whole new family of particles that no one has ever seen. And third, and this is a really weird one, it predicts so many possible universes that it actually ends up predicting nothing specific about our own. Let's take them one by one. This first one is a real doozy. For the math of string theory to even work, the universe can't just have the 3 spatial dimensions we all know and love. Nope, it needs 10, maybe even 11. The idea is that these extra dimensions are kind of curled up, super, super tiny and hidden from our view. But here's the kicker. We've looked for them. Seriously. Huge experiments at the LHC, super precise gravity tests. They've all searched, and they have found absolutely nothing. Zilch. Next up, we have something called supersymmetry, or SUSY for short. Now, this is another one of those non-negotiable requirements for the theory to hold together. It basically says that every particle we know has a much heavier superpartner. It's a really neat idea, and physicists were just convinced the Large Hadron Collider would start finding these particles left and right. But after years of smashing things together at incredible energies, crickets, not a single one has ever shown up. And that is a major blow to the theory. And now we get to what might be the theory's biggest, most baffling problem. And it's all summed up by this one staggering number. 10 to the power of 500. I mean, just try to wrap your head around that. That's a 1 followed by 500 zeros. It's a number so outrageously huge, it's bigger than all the atoms in the entire known universe combined. So what is that number? Well, it's the estimated number of different, totally valid ways you can build a universe using the rules of string theory. They call it the landscape problem. And you see the issue, right? A theory that can describe 10 to the 500 different universes, each with its own physical laws, has zero predictive power for our universe. It can't explain why things are the way they are here. It just shrugs and says, ours is just one of a practically infinite menu of options. That's not a theory, it's a list of possibilities. So when you've got all these massive problems piling up, you have to start wondering, maybe the issue isn't in the details. Maybe the theory's entire foundation is just wrong. What if we need a complete, fundamental rethink? What if the universe isn't built on tiny geometric strings at all? And this is the core idea of a fascinating alternative called the Harmonic Scale Framework, or HSF. It suggests that the biggest mistake of the last 50 years was trying to explain the universe through geometry, extra dimensions, curled up spaces. HSF asks us to imagine, what if the true language of the universe isn't geometry, but harmony? So what on earth does that actually mean? We'll try to picture the entire universe as one single gigantic ocean of energy. In this picture, every particle, every force, it isn't a separate little thing. It's just a stable ripple, a resonance on the surface of that one cosmic ocean. It's a total paradigm shift from thinking about objects to thinking about vibrations. This image here gives you a great way to think about it. Particles aren't tiny little balls, they're stable, localized vibrations, kind of like the pattern you see when you pluck a guitar string and it just hums. And forces, like gravity or magnetism, are just waves that travel through that universal medium. The theory proposes that all of this incredible complexity we see arises from the interactions of just 5 fundamental types of waves, or harmonic channels, all playing together like notes in a cosmic symphony. Okay, now for the real test. Let's see how this harmonic approach deals with the exact problems that have basically crippled string theory. We're going to go right back to those 3 critical failures and see what HSF has to say. Let's go back to problem number 1, extra dimensions. String theory needs them for the math to work. HSF says they don't exist, period. The effects that string theory tries to explain with all this complicated extra geometry, HSF explains simply through the interaction of its 5 harmonic energy channels. And this leads to a very bold, very clear prediction. All searches for extra spatial dimensions will continue to fail forever because there's nothing there to find. And what about all those missing superparticles? Remember, string theory needs them to make its equations stable. But in HSF, stability isn't something you have to add in by inventing new particles. It's an inherent property of the wave structures themselves. They're naturally self-stabilizing. So crucially, HSF makes another razor-sharp prediction. No supersymmetric particle will ever be found because the universe simply doesn't need them. And now for the big one. That landscape of 10 to the 500 possible universes. This is where the difference between the two ideas is just night and day. String theory gives you a practically infinite menu of options, making it impossible to predict anything. HSF, on the other hand, because its fundamental harmonic rules are fixed and deterministic, it generates exactly one universe, this one. There are no other options. The laws of nature are what they are, not by some random chance, but by harmonic necessity. HSF also has something to say about other huge mysteries. Take dark matter, for instance. String theory really has no single good explanation for it. But HSF proposes a specific solution. What we call dark matter is just the gravitational effect of one of its 5 fundamental wave channels, which the theory calls the neutron field. And once again, this leads to a direct, testable prediction. Searches for a specific dark matter particle are going to fail because it isn't a particle at all. So what we're left with here are 2 profoundly different visions of reality. I mean, this isn't just a debate about math anymore. It's really a philosophical showdown about the fundamental nature of our universe itself. And this brings us to the most powerful argument of all. You see, the harmonic scale framework makes what you could call a meta-prediction. It doesn't just predict that a certain experiment will get a certain result, it predicts that the entire research program of string theory is destined to fail because it's built on a fundamentally flawed foundation. It predicts that this 50-year stagnation will just continue because you can't solve a harmonic problem with a geometric tool. And these images here really give you a feel for the 2 paths. On the left, you've got the geometric approach, models that have become incredibly complicated, needing all these extra bits and pieces like extra dimensions and undiscovered particles just to hold them together. And on the right, you have the harmonic vision, a far more elegant, integrated system where everything in the universe emerges naturally from a single, unified set of rules. So after 50 years of chasing geometric strings down one dead-end path after another, maybe it's time to ask a new question. What if that ancient idea of the music of the spheres wasn't just a beautiful metaphor? What if the deepest reality isn't one of points and lines and shapes, but of resonance and vibration? Could harmony be the true language of the universe?